Hey, good evening, everybody. Here we are again, um, starting our um, spirits book class. Today is Monday, 8 p.m., and just let me do a couple of shares here. Just real quick, I'm going to share it with our page in Facebook. This one. And then let's do a quick share here with our group. There you go. And the spirits, oops. And also sharing here with our group and Facebook. So we're all set up. Now let's see, oops. It helps me to see what I'm doing here. Beautiful. So once again, we're gathered here to start our studies in the Spirits book, like every Monday at 8 o'clock. We get together for about 45, 50 minutes to talk about um, the Spirits book here at Mia Innerlight. Mia Innerlight is a new center that's being organized that will be dedicated to the English speaking Spiritists. All our activities will be done in English. We have a couple of charity works that we do throughout the year. We are currently doing a raffle that will allow us to become a 501c3, which is a official government nonprofit institution that is able to do charitable work and provide tax exempt receipts to corporations and people that would like to donate funds to help our charity events. Once that is over, now in the end of the month, we're going to be starting to do a diaper drive, helping out another initiative that exists here in South Florida, which is a group that does um, newborn to 1 year old supplies for mothers of newborns, of course, that need assistance with their clothing and um, all the elements that necessary to take care of the baby, the bassinet, the bathtub, the stroller, and everything else that comes with it, including a 1 year supply of diapers. So we'll be starting that drive soon as our fundraiser ends. And if you guys would like to help, that'd be beautiful. We are right now studying the Spirits book. This one here, the one I'm studying, the one I'm showing you is the one from the U.S. Spiritist Council, that now it's called actually a U.S. Spiritist Federation. And it's been translated and they distribute this book. And it's actually been made easier for us to understand because they were able to extract and simplify a lot of the wording that comes from the original Spirits book. So we are on book 1, chapter 3, the creation. We are on question 50. That's where we stopped last week, and we're going to continue. We're talking about the population of the earth and Adam and Eve. So Question 50 asked us, did the human race begin with one man only? And the answer was no. The man known as Adam was neither the first nor the only man who populated the earth. And then on question 51, they ask, is it possible to determine when Adam lived? More or less, the year and all that. So the answer was Adam lived approximately around the time that you attribute to him, about 4,000 years before Christ, give or take. The man that we refer to as Adam was one of the people who survived one of the great disasters that changed the Earth's surface over the course of history. He became the foundation of one of the races that populate our planet today. The laws of nature dictate that it would be impossible for the amount of progress that we know to have been accomplished by humanity long before Christ to have been accomplished so quickly if it had only existed since the time of Adam. So 4,000 years before Christ to 2,000 years after Christ, which is only 6,000 years, sounds like a lot, but it's not enough for us to have come from where we started to where we are today. That's what he's explaining. Some have doubted the story, dubbed the story of Adam with a myth of an or allegory personifying the earliest stages of the world, a belief that currently stands as the most reasonable. Then we go into question 52, that is the beginning of diversity of the human race. We know that if people come from different areas, they come in different colors, shapes, and a lot of different features, right? So on 52 says, what causes the physical and moral differences in the diversity of the human races on Earth? And then they explain the climate, the lifestyles, and the habits. The time differences are produced in two children born in the same mother but raised apart from one another under different conditions bear no moral resemblance to one another. How many cases have we heard that some twins and siblings have been separated, and then when they get reunited, they don't really recognize themselves on each other? It's because they came from totally different environments, right? Question 53 says, was humankind born to various points around the planet? And the answer from the Spirit says yes, and at various times. And this is one of the cases of diversity in the human race. The earliest people spread out across different climates and combined with other races, which formed new ethnic groups. So the mixed races, we call them, right? Do these differences constitute different species? And the answer is, of course not. All of these different people are single family. Do the difference between the various of the same fruit stop them from being the same species? Like all the different oranges, for example? If the human species cannot be tracked back to a single ancestor, should humans stop regarding one another as brothers and sisters? And then the spirits explain. Under God, all human beings are brothers and sisters, animated by a spirit and having the same goal. The human mind is inclined to interpret worlds literally. Then we move on to the next topic, which is going to be the existence of multiple worlds. This part for me is one of the most fascinating parts of the Spirit's book. And question 55 says, are all the planets that revolved in space inhabited? And the answer is yes. And the people on earth are far from being the leaders in intelligence, goodness, and general development. Despite what they may believe, there are many people who have such a high opinion of themselves and even believe that our little world alone has the privilege of being inhabited by intelligent beings. What an arrogant thought. They believe that God has created the universe only for them. God has populated planets with living beings, all of which have a role in the ultimate divine plan. Believing that living beings are confined to one point of the universe inhabited by us casts doubt on God's wisdom. God has done nothing in vain and must have assigned a purpose to every other world that is more important than merely serving as a lovely backdrop for our planet. Furthermore, there is nothing in the position, size, or physical makeup of Earth that warrants the assumption that it alone, of the thousands of planets in space, has the privilege of being inhabited. Question 56. Do all planets have the same physical constitution? And the answer is no. They do not resemble one another at all. We know that by the planets that surround Earth, right? Mars, totally different than, Earth. Then it's totally different than, Uh, question 57. As the physical constitution of the various planets is not the same for all, do the beings inhabiting those worlds have a different type of body and physical makeup? Of course, just as fish in our world, in your world, are designed for living in water and birds for the air. Are the planets furthest removed from the sun deprived of light and heat, since the sun only appears to be a tiny star to them? Are you assuming that there are no other sources of light and heat than the sun? Are you completely dismissing electricity, which in some worlds play a much more important role than on Earth? Besides, how do you know what the beings of those worlds see in the same way you do, with organs like yours? So you see, we assume they have a vision similar to people. And that's not necessarily true because we don't really understand how are they constituted. The conditions explained by Kardec says the conditions of existence for the beings inhabiting different worlds must be adapted to the world in which they are destined to live. If we had never seen fish, we would not be able to comprehend how any living being could survive underwater. The same idea applies to all the other worlds which most likely contain elements that are unknown to us. On our own planets, the long polar nights are illuminated by the electrical displays of the aurora borealis, commonly called as the northern lights. It is impossible to imagine that electricity may be more abundant in other the pages don't want to separate, in other worlds compared to ours, and play a role that we cannot even fathom. According to this argument, those worlds could contain different sources of heat and light required by their inhabitants. Human form, animal form, plant form, whatever form, right? Biblical account of creation. So on item 59, it's not really a question, but they come to inform us that Let's see how big this one is, because I know, yeah. Different populations of Earth have formed contrasting ideas about creation, depending on their degree of scientific advancement. Reason supported by science recognizes the implausibility of some theories. The explanation given by the spirits confirm the theory that has long been recognized by the most enlightened people. Arguments against this theory contradict the sacred texts. However, when we examine these statements carefully, they show us that this contradiction is more superficial than genuine. It results from the interpretation that has been given to allegorical expressions. Adam, widely regarded as the first man and sole ancestor of the human race, is not the only point that caused religious convictions and the world to change. At one time, the movement of earth so blatantly contradicted the Bible that every type of criticism imaginable was fired against it. Despite this, despite this, the earth continued to move in its orbit, and people today couldn't possibly object to this fact without jeopardizing their own sanity and credibility. The Bible also states that the world was created in 6 days and establishes the date of creations at about 4,000 years before Christ. According to the Bible, earth did not exist before that time, and it was created out of nothing at the time of creation. Yet, since has undeniably proven Yet science has undeniably proven otherwise. The history of Earth is irrefutably written in fossils, providing beyond the shadow of a doubt that the 6 days of creation are successive periods, each of which may have been millions of years. This is not a matter of opinion, but a fact that is indisputably certain as the movement of the earth. And on that theology itself can no longer refuse the acknowledgement. This admission provides yet another example of the errors we commit by attributing literal truth to figurative languages. Should we conclude that the Bible is one giant error? No. We must admit that people have definitely blundered in its interpretation. Science, in studying the geological records of Earth itself, has determined the order in which the different species of living beings appeared, and this order matches the sequence indicated in the book of Genesis. The main difference is that Earth was creating according to the laws of action of the forces of nature over millions of years. It did not spring miraculously from the hand of God in a few days, and it was not formed by the whim of divine will. Does this eclipse God's powers or strength? In the result of creative energy less sublime when it does not happen instantaneously? Of course not. And anyone who does not recognize the magnificence of the divine in this evolution of eternal law is quite foolish. Since, far from diminishing the glory of divine power, shows us that action from a more sublime perspective is consistent with our intuitive sense of God's power and majesty. Science has accomplished this without departing from the laws of nature. So, we have not come to change the law of man or the law of nature. Remember, Jesus said that when he was speaking? Modern science, in agreement with the scripture, states that humanity appeared last in the creation of living beings. However, scripture places the great flood of having occurred in 1654, years after the creation of the world, while geology shows that the great natural disaster occurred before the appearance of human beings. To date, the earliest strata contains no traces of humanity's presence, nor that of the animal coexisting with it. Nothing conclusively established that this is impossible, and various recent discoveries even suggest the possibility that our antiquity of the human race is much older than it has been previously believed. See Human Evolution in the Scientific Addendum of the USSC. If it is proven that humankind is in fact older than previously believed, it would confirm that the Bible is merely an allegorical narrative in its respect, and with so many other factors and concepts related therein. The question to be examined here is whether the great flood is the same suffered by Noah, or if the amount of time required for the formation of sedimentary layers and rock formations containing fossils does not allow this conclusion. See Noarchean flood in scientific addendum by the USSC. If eventually traces of the existence of human beings before the Great Flood are discovered, it is evident that either Adam was not the first man, or that his creation dates back closer to the dawn of time. There is no arguing against the fact of supporting evidence is found. This fact would have to be acknowledged in the same manner that the movement of the earth and the 6 periods of creation were also acknowledged. So, even though some churches are very strict on what they say, they have to become flexible when science proves a different outline of occurrences. The existence of humans before the Great Flood is still hypothetical. However, the same argument cannot be made against the flood the following considerations. And starting that human beings first appeared on earth 4,000 years before Christ, and if the entire human race, with the exception of a single family, was wiped out in 1950 years later, that means that populating of the earth dates back only to Noah's time, which is only 2,350 years before Christ. However, when the Israelites relocated to Egypt around the 1800s before Christ, they found the country to be very densely populated, advanced civilization. History also shows that at the same time, India and various other countries were also populated and flourishing, not to mention other nations that claim to date back further in time. We must before presume that from 2400 before Christ to 1800 before Christ, that is 600 years, few times low over our lifetime, the descendants of a single individual were able to populate every known country, and even those that were unknown, which we have no reason to believe were devoid of inhabitants. We must further presume that humankind was able to evolve from being unaware of the highest degree of intellectual development. Oops, what did I do? In this brief stint of time, which completely contradicts anthropological theory. The diversity of the human race supports this opinion. While differences in climate and lifestyle clearly change the physical characteristic of humans, we know the extent of which these adaptations may occur as a result of these influences. Physiological examination conclusively proves that there are fundamental differences between the races that are too great to have been caused by climate difference alone. The crossing of races diminish extreme characteristics by creating new varieties rather than reproducing the extremes. This process purposes the existence of separate races. But how can this be explained if all humanity can be traced back to a single ancestor and short period of creation? How can we deduce, for example, that Noah's descendants in such a short time had transformed into Ethiopians? Such a metamorphosis could be implausible as far a wolf turning into a sheep, a beetle into an elephant, or a bird into a fish. No preconceived opinion or belief system can resist the evidence of facts. If we believe that humans exist before the most widely accepted time of creation, that is, a diversity of origins, that Adam lived 600 years ago populating a country that until then had been uninhabited, that Noah's flood was a local catastrophe mistaken for a great geological disaster, and if we make the proper allowances for the allegorical expression, there are characteristics of the Eastern style and common to the sacred texts of all religions, very difficult to disappear. This is why it is important to be careful in literally interpreting figurative statements of belief, statements that may one day be proven to be false or inaccurate by science. Religion, rather than fearing the discoveries of science, should allow itself to be bolstered by it. This union is the only way that religion can arm itself against skeptics. Um, this concludes our chapter 3 reading of the Spirit's book, and we are actually going to be going into chapter 4 right now. And chapter 4 talks about the vital principle. Pay attention to see how interesting that is. It talks about organic and inorganic beings. It talks about life and death. And it also talks about intelligence and instinct. There you go. And under the organic and inorganic being, the chapter starts. Organic beings are those that have an intrinsic source that produces life. They are born, they grow, they reproduce, and then they die. Their organs are specifically adapted to carry out the different activities of life in order to sanctify their needs and maintain their existence. Humans, animals, and plants are all organic beings. Inorganic beings possess neither vitality, nor the power of spontaneous movements, and are merely the accumulation of matter, such as minerals, worms again. minerals, water, air, and so on. First question of chapter 4. Question 60. Does the same force unite the elements of matter in organic and inorganic bodies? Yes, the same law of attraction exists for all, organic and inorganic. Question 61. Is there a difference between the matter of organic and inorganic bodies? It is the same. The only difference is that in organic bodies, this matter is given to them. What gives life to matter? The union of matter with the vital principle. Question 63. Is the vital principle present in a specific agent, or is it a property organized matter? Simply put, is it an effect or a cause? This is both. Life is an effect produced by an agent acting on matter. Without matter, this agent is not life, just as matter cannot be live without this agent, and it gives the life to every being that absorbs it. Question 64. Spirits and matter are two essential elements of the universe. Is the vital principle a third? There is no question that is necessary for the makeup of the universe, but its source is a special variation of the universal matter. For you, it is an element like oxygen and hydrogen. Such are not primordial elements because everything derives from the same foundation. We're almost done with our reading today. This statement seems to imply that validity does not lie in a distinct primordial agent, but is a special property of the universal matter resulting from certain variations. That is the correct conclusion of what we have started. Does the vital principle reside in anybody that we know? Its source is the universal fluid, which is what you call the magnetic or electric fluid. Only animated. It is the link between the spirit and the matter. Question 66. Is the vital principle the same for all organic beings? And the spirit's answer, yes, but adapted according to each species. This principle gives organic beings the power of initiating movement and activity. They are distinguished from their inner matter and their ability to produce spontaneous movements. Inert matter can be moved, but it does not initiate the movement. Question 67. Is validity a permanent Is validity a permanent attribute of the vital agent, or is it only developed by the functioning of the organs? It is only developed with the body. Have we not established that this agent does not constitute life without a matter? The union of the two is necessary for life to coexist. Then question A out of this question. It is correct to say that vitality is dormant when the vital agent is not united with the body. And the spirit's answer, yes, exactly. The And then Kardec explains the organs of the body together form a mechanism that is impelled by their instincts, action, and vital principle. Residing within them, the vital principle is the deriving force of organic bodies, while the vital principle compels the organ in which it resides. The functioning of those organs further develops and sustains the activity of the vital principle, in the same manner that friction delayed him. So, as you can see, this is a very delicate subject because it goes back and forth trying to explain the differences between life, matter, and spirit. This will conclude our lesson today. We're coming back next week on Book 1, Chapter 4, Vital Principles, on the topic life and death. What causes, in questions 68 through 75A. So we're going to end this chapter next week. I would like us to think about these things that we talked today. So we started talking about chapter 3, which chapter 3 was talking about the creation. And if you're fascinated by history and you'd like to know more about that, I suggest you read the Genesis according to Spiritism. That's going to give you a lot of facts on that. On chapter 3, we talked about the creation of different worlds. We talked about the creation of living beings, not only humans, but animals and plants as well. We also talked about populating the earth, about the apparition of Adam from Adam and Eve. Was he the only one? Was he the main one? Did we have other options and all that good stuff? We also talk about different human races because in different aspects of the globe, depending on their climate and their infrastructure, we had different types of races arise. We also talk about the existence of multiple worlds. Here it doesn't go as much as in depth, but there are a few books where they do go most in depth. And we are kind of like in the middle of the world of the evolution of the human race and the world that we are in. And we are material, but we are more ethereal than we were when we were on phase 1 or phase 2 or phase 3. The more evolved we are, the more ethereal we're going to be, the less physical connection with the body we're going to have. We also talked about the existence of these multiple worlds, and there's a big talk inside of the Spiritist community that one of the planets, which is Saturn, is actually populated by more evolved spirits. And then we went into biblical account of creation. It's when we actually compared a little bit the story that we have on the Spiritist book with the actual Bible for certain curiosity of explanations. Then we started on chapter 2, where we have covered 2 parts. One of them was the organic and inorganic beings, and the other one, it was about life and death. The Spirit's book was designed to give us answers to many things. So it's a book that needs to be studied, yes, with other people, yes. I would like you guys to share some information on our YouTube page And I always look before I come into class if there is any messages from any of you that I should be answering faster. But if you guys can be in when I'm talking, and if you want to send me messages, I can see them here. I can share them with the audience, and maybe that's somebody else's question as well. Let's set aside our book and our day-to-day preoccupations. Let's think about the things we want to accomplish this week. Let's ask the spirits to accompany us in this journey that we are about to take, because every different week is a different journey that we take in our lives. Every different day is a different day in our journey that we take in our lives. And it's extremely important that we take that and we acknowledge that that is a gift. It's a gift from God to each and every soul to have this experience that is to come incarnate on earth, so we can understand by utilizing our feelings, not only our emotional feelings but our physical feelings, some of the experiences that others go when we interact with them. I think that's one of the biggest lessons on earth today, is that we should be able to put ourselves in each other's shoes, no matter what circumstances that may be from. Oh, I don't see any questions. Let me look here on Facebook if there are any questions. And nope, I don't see any questions on Facebook. So what we'll do is we'll reconvene again next week. I hope you guys have a blessed week, and that you guys allow yourselves to be part of the experience that it is to live on earth today. Although we're kind of locked up in our homes, and some of us are freezing because the electricity has pretty much gone out where we live, and some others are in different situations, we still coexist with each other. The phone still exists. We can still call each other. We can still count on each other. And let's do that. Let's count on each other. Let's try to call someone we haven't called in months this week, and try to talk and see how they're doing. Make sure our friends are okay. I hope all of you have a blessed week, and I hope to see you again at 8 o'clock on Monday night. Have a beautiful night, everybody.